Hello, I'm Neil Quigley and welcome to the latest episode of my Blogcast. Hope you're good. I have been to see the current version of Evita on at the London Palladium, the Andrew Lloyd Webber and Tim Rice musical, this time directed by Jamie Lloyd. I have seen a similar version to the way this is staged. It was on at the Barbican and then at the Regent's Park Open Air Theatre where I saw it around 7 years ago. It's a very minimalistic way of staging the show. Obviously, all the characters are there, all the songs are there as you'd expect, but there's no scenery as such. The whole thing takes place on basically an array of metal steps. So they all dance and move around those steps as they tell the story of Eva and Argentina. One of the big talking points of this production, of course, is the fact that the main song is not actually sang to the audience in the theatre. And before I went along, I wasn't sure if I was going to like that. Would I feel cheated? Would I feel disappointed? As it turned out, in the bigger scheme of the overall production, it actually works and makes sense. As I said, the staging is very basic, just metal steps, nothing else, with Evita written across the back of the stage. So there is no balcony for her to sing from on stage. They publicise the fact that this will happen at a certain time twice a day. There are barriers put up outside and security, and people who are in London do come along. The crowds do gather to watch it. You are seeing it all on TV, basically, a big screen at the back of the stage. But it does look quite impressive because you get her singing Don't Cry For Me, Argentina, with a live crowd underneath the balcony looking up at her, mostly in admiration. So it does work in context, and it actually is a really good part of the show, even though it's the only part of the show you're not actually seeing with your own eyes on the stage. The two leads in it are fantastic. Thought they were great. I always liked the part of Shay, a great part to play, and it is played very well. Both Rachel Ziegler and Diego Andres Rodriguez are brilliant, as are the rest of the cast. It is a show I have seen lots of times before, and I always enjoy it. It was very well done, and we had a fantastic Saturday afternoon from the stalls enjoying a matinee performance of that show. Definitely glad I got to see it. It was very good. I also managed to get out to Spain for a few days, which was an amazing break. A friend of mine has a house out there around about 40 minutes from Alicante Airport, in an urbanisation, as they call them over there. He and his family were out there for a few weeks. He invited me and my girlfriend Linda to come over and see them if we could make it work. It did take a bit of juggling with the diaries, but I was determined to get out there and see them and take them up on the very kind offer. It did work out pretty perfectly in the end. Linda and I managed to find some reasonably priced tickets from Luton. We were only going to stay for 2 nights, therefore we could easily do that with one small piece of hand luggage each. We got an early flight on the Sunday morning using fast track security to get us ahead of everybody else. We literally just had time to grab a sandwich before they were calling our plane to board. We did have a bit of a result on the way out. I kind of refused to pay the extra money so I could choose our seats. Therefore, we could have been sat anywhere. They did sit us together, and as it happened, we actually had one of the exit rows, so we had some free extra leg room. It did mean the hand luggage couldn't go in the seat in front and had to go in the locker above, but I think we won overall. My mate Steve had very kindly agreed to pick us up from the airport, so when we arrived with no bags to pick up, he was there waiting for us with a sign that his daughter Eleanor had made for us, which looked great. He was holding it up and should put on there, "Welcome Lord Neil and Lady Linda." I kind of liked the Lord Neil bit too much, if I'm honest, but it was a very nice gesture. It was brilliant as well, seeing a familiar face at the airport after the 2-hour flight, so we could start the holiday and the break straight away by catching up in the car on the way back to his house. He did give us a bit of a tour, including taking us past the salt lakes they have there, which are full of flamingos, which is just quite odd to see flamingos just in natural habitat like you'd see blackbirds or chaffinches in the UK. Quite amazing in many ways. The house him and his wife have over there, I thought was fantastic. It's in the Spanish style, but instantly when I arrived there, it just felt so homely and welcoming. That might be because I have known Steve since our first day at primary school when we were just 4 years old. We've been mates ever since. I've known his wife for well over 20 years now. We all get on great. Their daughter is amazing, as is their son, who is a bit older and wasn't there on this particular occasion. It just all felt so relaxing from the moment we walked in. They have a spare bedroom there, so they showed us to that so we could put our bags in there. And then the first thing Steve did, and this is the beautiful thing about going to see someone from England in another country like Spain, is he made me a fantastic cup of tea. What a way to ease ourselves in. The house they have there comes with a community pool which they can use anytime they want. So once we were settled in, it was straight into swimwear and round to the community pool. The weather was stunning. Sunny, blue skies, mid-30s. The perfect place to be was in that pool. So we all got straight in there and just spent, in the end, about 2.5 hours just swimming, messing about, talking, floating, enjoying being under the water. It was so relaxing. Bearing in mind, just the day before, I'd been in busy, hectic London, bit of sleep, quick flight, and there I was in the Spanish sunshine with some really good friends. I possibly could have stayed in that pool all afternoon, but we did decide we should get some food. So we went back into the house and Steve got the grill out and we had a barbecue in the garden. Recently, a new bar had opened about 5 minutes walk down the road from where they are. So we thought it would be rude not to check that out. So that's what we did. We had a walk down there. The owner was great. They have cocktails in there. So we worked our way through a few cocktails and then I moved on to sample some of the house red wine, which was brilliant. I have never had a bad glass of wine in Spain. The red out there, whenever I've had it, has always been good. We stayed in the bar for most of the night, eventually got ourselves home for a few more drinks to unwind while it was still hot outside in the garden. Then it was off to bed. On the second day, I was actually the first one to get up, but I'd already been told exactly where the kettle was, so I managed to make myself a cup of tea. Not long after I'd finished my first cuppa, Steve and everybody else slowly arrived. We had quite a relaxing morning, some breakfast, just chilled out. It was absolutely perfect. And then they took us to this amazing outdoor crazy golf place. It was absolutely huge in the glorious sunshine. The holes were good, very challenging. It was so hot, we played it in 2 halves. We played the first 9 holes, then went inside for a break and a drink, and then we went back out and completed the second lot of 9 holes. I was doing very well before the break. I don't know what happened during the break, but I really struggled for the second half of the course, which was quite annoying because I am very competitive and I didn't win. I think I came third in the end, but that's fine. I was with friends. It's just the taking part that matters. Afterwards, we came back in for another drink and had a bite to eat there before heading back to the house, where, without too much persuasion, we were convinced to go back into the pool by their daughter Eleanor, who wanted to hang out in there for a bit. It was another glorious day, so back on with the swimwear and round to the pool. We were on a bit of a time scale, so we only had exactly 40 minutes. We made the most of it. Steve and I got a few lengths in, and then we started playing a game with the bodyboard that his daughter had, basically trying to submerge it, then jump it over the edge of the pool. Not as easy as it sounds. In fact, the only one to achieve it was his daughter. Steve and I failed to do it despite several attempts. I'd actually set an alarm on my phone for the 40 minutes, and when that went off, we had to get out and go round back to the house to get ready for dinner we had booked at a lovely restaurant. Before we even got to Spain, due to my celiac disease and the fact I have to have gluten-free food, Louise had done some research and found this really nice restaurant that could cater for me. It is a lot easier actually for celiacs, I find, in Spain and Italy. They seem to be more aware of the condition, and they seem to have more gluten-free options in general. It was at another urbanisation which was about 25 minutes away, so Steve drove us there. It was a steakhouse. I must say the food was really good. Linda and I shared a big jug of sangria to keep ourselves in the holiday mood and try and fit in to our surroundings. And happily, there was one gluten-free dessert on the menu, so I got to enjoy that. So we had a lovely meal in there. Then we just wandered around and did a bit of shopping after that to walk off the dinner before heading back to the house for a few more drinks and just to enjoy the fact we were away and relaxing. The days there went so quickly, but I really did enjoy it. On the final day before we had to fly home, we got up relatively early to head to the seaside where there was a massive street market. That was huge. No word of a lie, it took up about 7 streets and they were all absolutely rammed with stalls. Everything you could imagine was there. So we had a nice look around there. It was close to the sea, so we had a walk near to the beach and had a couple of drinks at a beachside cafe looking out over to the water, which was nice and relaxing and an essential part of any sunshine break. You have to see the sea and some sand. Once that was done, back to the house once again, quick bit of food, and then Steve very kindly took us back to the airport. It was a flying visit. We were only there for 3 days and 2 nights, but I had a fantastic time, and they're going to be spending some time out there next summer, I believe, and they've already invited us over again next year. That is something I will be very much trying to achieve. I am a big Elvis Presley fan. I have been to Memphis, I've been to Graceland, I've been to Nashville, I've been to Sun Studio. I know a lot about him. So when I heard there was something called Elvis Evolution going to happen in London, it said it was going to be immersive. I will be perfectly honest, when I first heard about it, the information I saw, I believe, did suggest that it might use hologram technology. I'm sure at one point they mentioned the same company who worked on Aber Voyage. So bearing that in mind, I pretty early on, as soon as I could and soon as tickets became available, booked a ticket for me and my mum, who is also a big Elvis fan. Then about a month before the date that we were originally due to go, I got an email saying the opening had been delayed. I think it said due to the fact one of their suppliers had gone bust, so it had delayed things slightly. I think that's possibly the point where the package they were looking to offer may have changed. It's a little unclear. Either that or their original literature, I think, may have been a bit misleading. It did give you the opportunity to rebook, so I rebooked the tickets as near as I could to its new opening date. It had been open for a couple of weeks before I was due to go, and there had been quite a bit of noise around it, with some quite bad reviews and people feeling a bit cheated that they weren't getting what they were expecting or what they believed they had bought. I was aware from the start that it was supposed to be an immersive experience, and I did know that it was linked to the people who did the War of the Worlds immersive experience. I had some friends who went on that, and they said that was really good and they really enjoyed it. So before I went, I was trying to keep a bit of an open mind. I was trying not to read reviews and just judge it for myself. So a couple of Saturdays ago, my mum and I headed to the XL Centre using the tube, the good old Elizabeth line, which takes you to Custom House, which is the nearest stop to it. It is very well signposted from the tube, found it very easily. It has a big front that you can't miss when you get close, and then it directs you into a diner to start. On arrival, I have to say, they checked us in very quickly, very efficiently, gave us our wristbands and explained what was going to happen. We had a certain colour, we had to wait till that was called. Me being me, when I bought the tickets, I bought the mid-range VIP offer, which meant we did get a few things included. We had a photo opportunity. We also had a drink in all the areas where there are drinks supplied, which there were 3 in total throughout the experience. The first of which was the diner that you start from. So you get to the diner, we had our free soft drink each at this point and just sat there looking around waiting for things to start. It is obviously set up as a traditional American 1960s diner, and it looks the part, can't argue with that. We were then called up, so we headed over to the first part. That takes you into a NBC dressing room. Basically, the whole concept is based around Elvis's 1968 comeback special, where he'd been in the films for 7 years, hadn't performed live. This was his chance to get back in front of an audience and perform and sing again. He was very, very nervous about doing it. Apparently, his manager, Colonel Parker, hadn't distributed the tickets for the audience like he was supposed to have. So they put out a plea for anyone who wanted to be in the audience for this show to come down to this diner and they'd select the audience from there. That's the diner you start in. They use the NBC dressing rooms as a holding area for people, so that's what they did first. Then from there it's immersive, so you get introduced to various actors playing various parts to move you along and around the story. Elvis did stay in his dressing room for quite some time and actually delay the recording of it, so they tried to recreate that. While you're, inverted commas, waiting for Elvis, they take you into another room which offers a trip back to Elvis's roots, and that's quite clever. There's some nice effects. You get lots of things on a big screen. You get the actors interacting. You get Elvis's childhood story through to his early Memphis years with a few clever touches. So that was quite enjoyable. Didn't really learn anything new, but then again, I know a lot about Elvis as it is, but I thought it was quite nicely done. And then they move you into the Blue Hawaii bar, which is a pretty standard, I suppose, cocktail bar. It's decorated okay, but the highlight of that was, as part of the VIP package I had got, we got a Blue Hawaii cocktail each, which was basically a bright blue pina colada, which tasted quite good, and judging by the hit it gave me, did have a fair amount of alcohol in it. Next up, it's kind of, I would say, the highlight of the show. They walk you through a mock-up of Elvis's dressing room, and then you go into the studio area they've set up, and that's when you get the 1968 comeback special. Elvis on a big screen with some live musicians on stage. And I must say, it's very well done. You get Elvis talking and then they join in with the songs as he's performing. I thought that was very nicely done. And the highlight of the show, they do a bit of an encore with all the actors, and that's kind of like how the main bit finishes. And then you end up in the All Shook Up bar, which was the final bar where we could get a free drink as part of the VIP package. So I had a nice glass of wine in there. They had a DJ in there playing Elvis songs, and then when the DJ wasn't on, there was a live band there again playing Elvis songs. A great big Elvis photo opportunity on the way out that you could use to take a picture with a big Elvis sign. On the way round, they did take our photos and then they superimposed them on whatever backgrounds you want. So we did get a couple of nice photos together with an Elvis style backdrop. That was good. I enjoyed it. Did I learn anything new? No. Was I completely blown away by it? No, but I've been to Graceland, and once you've done that as an Elvis fan, I don't think much, to be honest, can really top that. If you don't know anything about Elvis, you're completely new to him, you'll learn quite a bit. If you're a fan, I think it's an experience worth doing for something a bit different. If you've been to Abbey Voyage and expecting it to be similar to that, it's not. It's a very different experience, but I'm glad I went. As a Tottenham fan, I have been celebrating all summer our Europa League win, and I had done the stadium tour already once about 6 years ago, but I found out the date that as part of the stadium tour, they were going to include your chance to have a picture taken with the Europa League trophy. Therefore, me being me, I had to book myself on a tour so I could do that on the very first day that they offered it. I managed to squeeze myself on to the last tour of the day. It has changed a bit since the last time I did the tour at Tottenham. Previously, it was a guided tour where you had one guide take you around in a big group and you went round and did everything together. This time, it's more of a self-guided tour. There's sections where you get a guide who explains a bit to you, but mostly you can just walk yourself around at your own pace. There's kind of pluses and minuses with that. You can just wander along and get your pictures where you need them. But speaking as someone who used to be a tour guide at Wembley Stadium for a couple of years, I think it's much more personal, exciting and more of an experience if you are taken round by a guide all the way. I understand why lots of places do the self-guided tour, and there's probably lots of people who prefer it that way. I still had a good time and enjoyed it and made sure I looked around everywhere. I always like going into the H Club and the Tunnel Club, which are two executive areas at Tottenham that probably I'm never going to be able to afford to go in unless I win big on the Euro Lotto. You do also get a chance to go into one of the private boxes, and they're pretty good as well. One day maybe, but for the time being, I'll slum it in my normal season ticket seat unless my numbers come up and I can renegotiate with the club. There were some good photo opportunities on the way round. The first one is in the mix zone, which is the area where they do all the press interviews and where they arrive into the stadium. They had a Player of the Month award and you could have your picture taken with that, which at the end of the tour they give you with a caption about more details being on Spurs Play, which is the TV channel. I really liked that photo. That was good. But the main reason I went, apart from having the chance to walk out the tunnel and get my picture taken there, and of course to sit in the Spurs dressing room, was to have my photo taken with the Europa League, which I did. I had a couple of different photos taken and made sure I got hard copies and got the digital copies of those. It was brilliant to see it in person and be up close to that trophy and have my own personal picture of it. I might actually get a frame for one of them and stick it up in my living room. We have done a couple of last minute midweek theatre trips recently. I will pretty much go and see anything at the theatre. I absolutely love it. A few weeks ago we went and saw Mrs. Warren's Profession, which stars Imelda Staunton and her daughter. I thought that was really good. Interesting, fun, clever play with an absolutely exceptional cast. And then just the other week, again last minute on the day deal tickets, we went and saw a play called Till the Stars Come Out, which was quite a modern National Theatre production at the Theatre Royal in Haymarket, which is a theatre I really like. I thought that was really good. It was gritty, it was clever, it made a lot of good social points, it was very funny in places as well, and a good story arc. So thoroughly enjoyed that. Always on the lookout for theatre bargains, and there's lots of things on my list that I still want to see. That's almost it for this episode. Just a quick reminder that you can hear my radio show Saturday afternoons between 2 and 4 at radio9springs.com. Look after yourselves and each other, please. Take care, stay safe, and I'll speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.